It's time. What time is it? It's time for another exciting episode of the da-da-da-da-da Burning Bench. I'm Willie, and today I'm going to show you how to re-shank a silver ring. You can see right here how thin that shank is. We're going to replace that shank from here to here. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about working on silver. Silver, if it has any stones, can be difficult to work on. Never ever solder a ring that's silver that has anything glued into it. You're going to pop it no matter what precautions you take. So do not, I repeat, do not work on anything that has stones glued in when it comes to silver. Again, I know, I did it years and years and years ago. The other thing is, when you do have stones in it, see, what it is about silver is that the heat transference. Silver loves to be as hot everywhere as it is where the torch is. So, if you have stones in it, what's going to happen is that the stones are going to burn up. So, I do what I call my famous, my famous, world famous, but you probably never heard of it, paper towel trick. So I'll take a piece of wet paper towel, and I wrap it around my stones so it'll heat sink them off. And then I use a very large tip, probably a number 6 or a number, I'm looking right now so I know. Oh, this is my 6, so it's not that one. I'll sometimes have to go up to a number 7. Now, this works very well, except if the ring is really large. If it has a lot of mass, don't work on it. Just, it can get ugly. It's not that it's not repairable, but discretion, the better part of valor. Okay, we're moving on now, or at least I am. So, have the ring, have the thin shank, need to replace that shank. This actually came in and it was broken in the back, so I soldered it back together so I can get an accurate size on it. Mandrel. This is a size 12 1/2. So remember that, because quite often I forget. This is where your calipers come in very handy. Make sure they're zeroed. Now, I want to look at this ring, and you see right here where it's thicker. And I want to look over here, and it's pretty thick there. Quite often is that when someone's wearing a ring, they leave it on all the time, and so it's always worn in the same direction. And inevitably, one side of the ring will wear out more than the other side. This one looks fairly even. So I'm going to look at it. I'm going to take a thickness measurement, and it looks like it's like 140. And I'm going to take a measurement on my width, 387. I'm going to make a light mark there. Check my width again. 380. It varies. So I'm going to go over here, and I want to pick a side on this shank the same width. .376, 387. So it looks like right about there. Now, the reason I like to take and measure the width on either side is so when I get my new piece soldered in, I can get an even taper. It'll taper back on the back side of the ring very nicely. So next step, get my clippers. Mark that. Committed now. We have to fix this ring. Customer's not going to wear it like this. Super glue though. He could super glue it. That would work. Want to trim up where I cut it off. So now we have that ring ready for the new shank. So I want to get the distance on the shank so I can put the right size in, and I want to pre-cut it. Well, I'm so bad. Like I said, it's amazing I get anything done. So, flattening my piece. Almost lost my ring. It was in the lap pan, thank goodness. So I'm going to check my distance again. And once I filed down, pretty much came up to 190. That happens. And our thickness is relatively close. We always want our sizing stock to be as thick as the thickest side of the ring. There goes that R and me and we again. Certainly have issues with that. Look at this. That's 403. That's certainly wide enough. And 155. That's thick enough. So I have a piece of sizing stock. I'm going to trim this in. This is essentially like a big size up, except that there's a few little idiosyncrasies that's why I decided to go ahead and show you how to shank a ring. So I take and lay that down there up against my old piece of shank. I'm going to take my file and make a mark. Now what I like to do is take and just lightly make a mark. And get my mandrel. If this was gold, I would anneal it first. Annealing is the process of, kind of picture, if you will, like the what are those things? Molecules. Hey guys, it's early. You may not know this, but it's pretty early right now. The molecules in here, in the metal, after rolling, are just like, kind of all this stir going like this. Well, heat kind of works like Prozac for them. And you heat the metal, and they all get all relaxed. All right, I'm feeling good now. And then you let it cool down, and they're all relaxed. And your metal will bend much easier. But with silver soft, and it doesn't have, silver doesn't hold well, it doesn't have a high tensile strength like gold does. So I like to kind of pre-bend this that way. I've done it the other way for a lot of years. I just cut my metal, put it on a straight piece, and then tried to bend it around. Sometimes it really kind of messes with things. It bends the ring too much, and you can, especially if you're working on like a large gents ring that's hollow, you can run into a lot of problems. So I like to pre-bend. Now on my bending, I'm making sure that I'm keeping it square to the mandrel. Perfect. Now I'm going to cut it all the way. Now, why I didn't cut it all the way first is that way I had the tag on here so I can get a nice bend on that. I think I'm going to go and bend the front side just a little bit more. Now, one thing I got to do that I haven't done, what size was it? You guys were supposed to remember. What size? I've had enough coffee today, this morning. It was 12 and a half. So get over here to my 12 and a half. All right. Now we're going to take and we're going to clip it on our score line. Put our silver stock back into the appropriate bin. If you're doing a lot of work, this is really a good idea. Having little bins, and these are breath mint cans, and it's like a double whammy. You get to enjoy the breath mints, and then you can use the cans afterwards. Whoever thought of this was brilliant. Some marketing guy back there at the Altoids factory. Well, it looks like to me that we're ready for the fire. So we're going to turn the fire on. Except for one issue. Remember how I said about silver and tips? Well, I'm going to get, I think because I'm not heat seeking this off, I think my number 6 will work just fine. Number 6 on. Looking good. We need a tweezer. I need a tweezer. Well, you probably do once you start doing work. You'll need tweezers. Now, if you've never ordered any jewelry tools or tried to buy any jewelry tools, there's a lot of different suppliers out there, but if you don't have a resale number or some sort of business license, you can go to places like riogrand.com. I don't know as far as hobbies go. There might even be in wherever town you're living in, a place that sells jewelry supplies. Used to be, when I started in the 70s, there was a lot of little stores here and there because silver jewelry was very popular, and you had lapidary stores are a good place. They usually, lapidary and jewelry making kind of go hand in hand. Let me see if we got solder on our pad, and I have solder on my pad. Remember the first thing I do is flux. Okay, solder's balling up. Now you notice I did not use a solder pick. Now what I like to do is heat the end and get solder rolling up on the end. Now my solder is melting on the end of my sizing stock. So I don't know if the sound of the flame of the torch is being picked up on the microphone, but when I increased the propane and oxygen, the torch started speaking to me a little bit more. And you know what it was saying? It was saying, I love my job. I love my job. Let's check it out and see how it looks. Looks good there. Looks good there. Looks good there. Not bad. Okay, because that's got so much oxygen running through it. That's a very dangerous flame. Safety first. Remember, safety first. And this is the time of season. Right now I'm filming this. This is right before Thanksgiving. And it's coming on to Christmas. And the mantra for Christmas, you're gonna poke your eye out. No, I'm not gonna poke my eye out. Yes, you will. I almost have before. Alrighty then. Putting the ring on the mandrel, and that helps cool it down quickly. Normally, if I was working as I usually do, I'd have another job that I'd pick up and start working on while this one's cooling. But since this is an instructional video, then I'm just gonna work on this one ring, obviously. Okay, so I want to line this up, and it's lined up. I want to line it up that way. I have to open it up just a bit. The thing that's cool is by pre-bending it, it makes it a lot easier to line up. Getting my shank pliers, and I have to close this gap. It looks like it's pretty even. Let's close that gap up. Okay, we do have a little bit of a fitting issue. So, I am going to find my saw frame. Get another blade, since that one was kaputzi. And if you remember from episode 1, I have all my saw blades stuck on a magnet here. That was a little bit big. Okay, well, this is the size ones we want. I'm going to run I believe these are 6/0 that I have on here. Run a 6/0, and with saw blades, if it's like the higher the number, like a 2 is a bigger saw blade than a 1, and an 0.6 is a smaller blade than an 0.5. And I like to use anything from most of what I use is 0.6 and 0.8. That's the magic. You can almost play a song. Here we go. Here we go, loop-de-loo. Running a saw blade down between the seam. Oh, that flushes it out so nice. Good a job. Okay. Now I'm going to tighten this up just a bit more. We're ready to solder. Ha, ha, ha. Got the solder pick. Gonna get our flame back. Again, because it's silver, we need a hot flame. This has a lot of mass to it. Now, this does have diamonds in it, but the diamonds can take the heat. Diamonds, sapphire, and ruby. One thing about ruby and sapphire, the only difference between sapphire comes in every color but red. Because when it comes in red, it's called a ruby. Good to know. But sapphire, diamond, and ruby most of the time can take the heat, but you don't want like your stones to start glowing red. Like if you get a diamond and glow red, and it's glowing red, and you take the heat off and let it cool back down, sometimes it doesn't look so good. And irradiated diamonds, keep them away from any high heat. You can size them without an issue, but you can't retip them because they'll lose their color. Black diamonds will just get very ugly if you heat them. So, got to keep a heat off of those. So I'm going to pick up some solder, bring it over here, set it down. And heat away. I can tell my piece of silver, there it goes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just like on a size up, size down, going to take and heat it from the opposite side and draw it through. Going to add a little bit more solder here. Sometimes you need to do that on a particularly large shank. It helps draw it through better. Okay, and then I'm going to take and draw this through. Turn our flame off. Pop! Pop goes a torch. This is very hot now. Letting it cool just a bit. We're cooled now. I can take it without burning the flesh off my fingers. Now, just like when we're doing a size up or a size down, first thing I do is file the inside. We I want to file it flush. I don't know if you can see this right here. I guess you can. But I like to cut a bit of a groove there. And what that does is you can put the edge of your ring and it holds your ring in place for when you're filing the inside. Then turn it around, just like I do when I size a ring up or down. Okay. This should come up because we cut the piece and we measured against the piece. This should come up right on a 12.5. At least that's what I'm banking on. Turn it around, just like when because this is a tapered mandrel, need to bring it up to one side and then turn it around because the ring will have a slight taper on the inside and one side won't be the same size as the other side. So always want the ring to read the same when you put it on either direction. Check my size this way, making sure that it's a 12.5, and it is. So nice and round. Now because this has stones in it, anytime you work on anything, you want to check and make sure that the stones are still tight. Well, that looks good. Now it's a matter of trimming it up. See, and I'm using that groove I cut. Keeps the ring stable for me. Because the teeth on the file have a tendency to grab. If you have a sharp file, it grabs and it'll pull the ring up. Look at the back side of my shank. Make sure it's even, the same width. Then I will get my sharp emery board. No, this isn't so sharp. I'm almost due for a new emery board. Looks good. And I could go and drive myself crazy and measure the shank all the way to make sure that it's the same width all the way. But jewelry, as I said, I think way back in episode 2 or so, it's pretty much eye clean. So as long as it looks even and feels good, it's good. We're going to go back to when I made a silver band. This is basically the same idea. What we need to do is we need to trim the thickness first and then roll the edge. So keeping my band square to the bottom of my file, I'm going to file until the center of this right here is even with this, because we do have a little bit of a curve on this shank. I'm looking at the side, and now what I want to do is I'm making it consistent thickness around. And see how I'm using my bench pin? I've got that groove right there, and the inside of the ring, I'm locking right against that edge, and it still wants to turn on me. And it will take you a while to build the strength up in your fingers, but don't give up. Now I'm going to take and trim the edge, even that up, turn it over, let's trim up this side. We even actually have a pretty decent dome. Emery board. See how I'm just moving my emery board from side to side, back and forth, so that way I don't get a flat space, a flat place on my ring. Oh. Alrighty. New shank compared to the old shank. There you have it. Only a couple things left to do now, and that is, yes, you're right, polish it, throw it in the ultrasonic, steam it, wrap it up, and send it out. I guess that does it for another exciting episode of the Burning Bench. Till the next time, work safe. This is Willie. Thanks for tuning in.